Um, this is a very timely meeting, I must say. It's a meeting that comes after the very successful one you had last week, Lamberto, 2 weeks ago in Turkmenistan, and congratulations also for that one. That was an in-person meeting with Central Asians and neutral countries. I think I got a very good feedback on that meeting. And I think this comes very timely because we just read yesterday from the chair in 2025, the foreign minister of Finland, that he said that if there is no chairman in 2024 and there is no consensus on this issue, the next year will be the year of the destruction of the OSCE as an organization. I mean, this is what the foreign minister of Finland, and this is the Helsinki Plus 50 seminar, the foreign minister of Finland says next year will be the year of the destruction of the OSCE. The chairman in office, Osmani, a few months ago said that the OSCE is undergoing the biggest existential crisis since its beginning. And I tend to agree with the chairman in office. We are going through an existential crisis of our organization. This also probably explains why Ambassador Junja is not here with us today. He's dealing with the existential crisis. So he has big issues to deal with. But indeed, we have big challenges. We have an organization that for 2 years has not had its budget passed. And if we look at the figures of this budget, are ridiculous. I've said it very often, 132 million euros. If you look into the funds that the EU allocates for PNR or for other projects, I mean, this could be just one of the small projects of the EU, 132 million. And if you compare these figures to what the organization does, and you don't need to go through the entire list here, you're all experts of the OSCE, it's incredible. The resources allocated and the amount of delivery and the amount of things that these organizations does. I can see Matemekachis that organized. If you just think about how much the ODIHR does in all the different branches of the third dimension. I mean, so it's for me still, I find it so difficult to understand the discrepancy between funds that we're talking about and the delivery that we give. But so we have the issues of the budget. We have the issue that at the end of the year, the four institutions of the OSCE, the main four institutions, the Secretary General, the ODIHR Director, the Freedom of the Media, and the High Commission for National Minorities need to be renewed. And for this, you need to have consensus. There are challenges on this, of course. It's a long process. I hope that there will be a smooth process and not a repeat of what we saw in 2017, when we had to wait for 6 months until heads of these institutions were appointed. And for 6 months, the organization was working without heads of institutions, with the deputies, but in some of these cases, these institutions, the mandate is a personal mandate. The High Commission for National Minorities cannot do its job if there is not the titulaire, let's say, and the same with Freedom of the Media, and in part also with the ODIHR. So we have to take these things very seriously. I hope that the ambassadors in Vienna and the ministers will consider this very seriously. The organization is indeed in an existential crisis. And for somebody like me, and I see here also Doug Wake is connected and he will speak, who was my boss in Serbia, we are the ones who have served this organization from the grassroots level. I mean, I started as an election officer in Bosnia in '99. I've worked in Bujanovac, in the villages, let's say. And we have seen with our own eyes how much the organization does good to ordinary people. There are many people who benefit from this organization for all the projects that this organization does in human trafficking, in institution building, in coaching parliaments, in reforming the police, in reforming the judiciary. I mean, again, I can make here the entire list. It would be a list of 1,000 issues that we do, but it is issues and it is projects that bring benefits, concrete benefit to ordinary citizens. This year, the CIO has said this is for the people. Well, what is this organization does everything for the people, and yet it does everything for the people. It does it so cheaply, 132 million euros. And yet we are still debating why we cannot pass the budget, why we cannot appoint the heads of institutions to just provide continuity. So I would say that our effort here today, and I really commend Ambassador Zania for leading us through these years, would be really to at least do our small part, which is have parliament debate these within their own parliament. So you bring back these into your own parliament and get your parliaments and governments to just pay a little more attention to the organization. It doesn't require a big effort here. It just requires that the 57 foreign ministers instruct the ambassador to pass the budget and to let at least the organization do its job. Then, of course, there is a bigger issue about it's a very polarized world in this moment. So the old discussion about dialogue and find agreements within the Permanent Council is difficult, and that I recognize. But at least let's agree that whatever the organization delivers through the independent institutions, so the concrete work of the organization, the election observations and everything else can go ahead. And for that to go ahead, you just have to give an administrative instruction to let the heads of institutions be renewed and pass the budget. Then, of course, the question of dialogue is something that is a different track, and then needs to be dealt with, within the Permanent Council, within the ministerial councils, and there can be also the classical solution. No, we agree to disagree, but at least let's separate the two things. Let's let the organization continue its life, because it is kind of continuing its life through a very creative system. Let's get extra budget contribution. Let's not have the consensus on the agenda, but let's have something organized by the chair to have a meeting on the same issues. So we are really finding all the possible creative ways to get very good work carried out, while, this could be done, at least the work could be done with just a simple decision of ministers and ambassadors who are probably trying to convince the ministers. I'll just leave you with this thought, Madam President. I think I've said it in other meetings, some have heard. But the Munich Security Conference prior to COVID, I remember a debate with the foreign minister of Saudi Arabia, the foreign minister of Israel, and the foreign minister of Iran. They were discussing about their issues, of course, in the Middle East. But one thing that these three foreign ministers, who of course, Sunni Shia, Riyadh, Tehran, and Tel Aviv have obviously different visions. But they said one thing they agreed. They said one thing that would be very good for us would be to have an arrangement, the security arrangements that deals with political military, which deals with economic environment, and deals with the human rights dimension. And that was a description of the OSCE. So those who have in other region issues and conflicts, they say it would be great if we had something like the OSCE. We have the OSCE here. we have tested it for many years. We have the evidence, we have concrete results delivered for years in the Balkans, still now in Southeast Europe, in Central Asia, when there were missions also in the Caucasus. So in Eastern Europe, we have projects delivered, people who have benefited, many things that have happened. Of course, we've had other challenges. Then we have it. Why we have to destroy this tool for, I don't know, and then we will have to reinvent the tool the next day. So let's at least use this year, not what the foreign minister of Finland said, that the next year is the year of destruction. Let's at least try to survive this period. Of course, we have a big challenge ahead of us, and nobody denies it, but this war will finish at some point. And then let's move on. But while there is this moment, at least let's keep the organization do its job. Let's survive this phase, and then we will be able to move on. The French have this saying, reculer pour mieux sauter, like two step backwards to better jump. Let's now say that we are in this phase, we're taking a little bit a step back, but keep at least the good things that exist in this organization alive, and then let's relaunch it hopefully in 2025, when hopefully the war will have been ended and we will have a better situation also in the general relationship of these countries. Sorry, I was a bit too long, Ambassador Zanir, but I think, this provides the context, because this is what we're talking about. Thank you very much. Just one comment on Doug's fantastic mathematics. I did something similar once. So the organization costs 10 cents, you said, for taxpayers or for the people, maybe even more than taxpayers, any citizen of the 1 billion and more that belong to to the area from Vancouver to Vladivostok. I made another calculation once because you mentioned government and defense budgets. One day of the OSCE, so the OSCE entire budget equals to one day of the budget that is allocated from one participating state, the US, on the operation in Afghanistan. So if you look at the US budget only for Afghanistan, one day is the entire cost of 1 year for the OSCE. So this is what we are discussing about, but I liked very much what you made, and I think this is a very good narrative. The idea of dividing the OSCE in these four clusters. I never actually conceptualized it that way. The OSCE, its people, the OSCE, its commitments and values, the OSCE, the activities, what the missions, the institutions are doing, and then the OSCE as a platform for dialogue. I think this is, it's very nicely decoupled. And I think the problem we have here is in the OSCE as a platform for dialogue in this moment, so the political part of it. But that one should not go at the detriment of the OSCE and its activities, or the OSCE and its values. I mean, the participating states have committed to these values. So far, nobody has pulled out of the values. In Astana, they recommitted to the values and the commitments. So I think this we should be preserving very much. And of course, the OSCE people, thank you for that. I mean, I am one of them. All of us want, of course, to continue to contribute after investing so many years in the organization. But I think normally the people who work in these organizations are the least concerned for those who decide, but of course, I appreciate also that you have a concern for actually the individuals who have contributed in their future and their jobs. But I think what we should highlight, of course, is never to lose sight of the values and the commitments, because participating states have committed and recommitted in 2010 in Astana to values that I think today they would not be able to really, because I mean, if you look at the Decalogue of the Helsinki Final Act, which has been violated in all its parts, so it's very important to keep this, because at least you can call countries who are at odds with these commitments accountable for it. And definitely, I would preserve all the activities. And here we have representatives of the ODIHR and other institutions who carry out these activities, as you said, on a daily basis, and individuals are benefiting on a daily basis for this. And so the issue is the political problems that we have, the fact that this doesn't function as a part for dialogue in this moment, but let's not have that kind of destroy all the other three aspects of this organization. That's a quick comment there. Members of Parliament will take the floor on this. I think what I failed to say before is that at our annual session in Vancouver, our assembly will come up with a document. I think we are thinking actually of having at the very beginning of our annual declaration an entire dispositivo. I don't know how you say it, Lamberto, but anyway, on the institutions, on the OSCE as such, so this will be also the parliamentary contribution on preserving the organization. About you said something that is very interesting to me, because I have experienced the same. Like a lot of the activities that this organization does, a lot of the good things that we do in reforming the police, judiciary, media, human trafficking, I don't know, integration of minorities. The list is very long, and if you go and look at each project, it's extremely interesting, extremely useful, extremely good for those who benefited and for the country that has received that kind of activity. But it's unknown. It's the best, let's say, kept secret, and it's the best kept secret also at the level of foreign ministers. I've been very many times in ministerial meetings and chit-chatting over lunch or over a pause with some minister and mentioning some of these activities. Oh yeah, you also do this, you also do that, because the ministers obviously live in a more of a bigger world. There they come to ministerial meetings in between, I don't know, a NATO summit and a European Council Affairs meeting. So when they come to the OSCE, they deliver a speech that is prepared maybe by the ambassadors in Vienna, and then they move on to some bilateral meetings with big people, but they're not really focused on what the OSCE does. And so we've always had this challenge of more visibility, how we get more visibility. And I've discussed this also with previous Secretary Generals. Lamberto was Secretary General before, and with Helga Schmidt now, with many chairmen in office. I said, how can we make sure that this work is more visible? And I'm not talking about the visibility of CNN or New York Times, but at least visible to the ministers, because I think if we at least convert 57 ministers to this business, then we've solved the problem, at least, of financing and the challenges that we've discussed. I do not know what is the solution. I think I take here responsibility as Secretariat of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly and the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. We should do better in providing you, members of parliament, a kit for you to be able to go to your ministers. And I think here, as we lead up to Vancouver, I think we have to do some work, homework ourselves at the Secretariat, because I can see also, while we were talking, I don't know, Luis, if you don't mind, I mean, being open, but many of you have responded, Roberto, what can we do? I know the Prime Minister, I know the Foreign Minister, tell me what I can do, and I will immediately act. So MPs are willing to do something, and I'm sure you have access to foreign ministers, but somehow, you don't have all the speaking points or all the story that we've come up now for a 10 minutes meeting with a minister to say, because also this, I am known not to be very synthetic. So normally if I speak to a minister with 2 hours speech, I say, okay, thank you. What do you want me to do, Roberto? Tell me yes, no, or give it to me in a short snapshot. So I think we have to be better, us, in providing you, members of parliament, with a proper kit on what you can do back in your capital. Of course, you participate in these debates, you kind of are converted now to this, but then in 3 days, it will not be easy to bring this to your ministers. So I think we will have to come up with that. One thing that we can do for ministers, and I see, I don't know if there is also still a representative of the Macedonian chairmanship, but one thing that we've tried already many years ago with the Slovak chairmanship and Miroslav Lajčák was a suggestion I gave him, was that maybe at the ministerial meeting, at the very beginning of a ministerial meeting, when all the ministers, normally there is focus on the OSCE for at least 15 minutes at the highest level, when the chairman in office speaks, when the OSCE PA president speaks, normally at the ministerial meeting, all the ministers are in the room and they listen to those speeches. I suggested years ago to a chairman in office, maybe to use those minutes to maybe play a video of 1, 2, 3 minutes. And, some big advertising companies are very good at that, but just showing in a snapshot, in a video of 3 minutes, end users of the OSCE products speaking. Not ministers, not us, not Roberto Matteo, but I don't know, Irina in Lugansk, or Boris in Bujanovac, or Fatmir in Skopje, says, the OSCE came into my life, it was like this before, it is like this now. So I have benefited from this. And in 3 minutes, with some nice music, nice scenarios, maybe subtitles, you can get at least some ministers converted to this brand, the OSCE. And I think this can be one additional thing, of course. I mean, it's not the solution, the panacea to all the challenges we have, but I think we have to be creative that way. Like here, we are really struggling for the attention of foreign ministers who instruct their political directors, sometimes also the attention of political directors, and then have the ambassadors in Vienna play this game. And I think, Alison, I take back from this discussion, really, your division in 4 clusters is very good, because this helps also the narrative. Let's not break the other 3 clusters, the OSCE people, the OSCE activities, the OSCE commitments and values, because the OSCE as a platform doesn't work. Let's keep the OSCE there as a platform. When we are ready for dialogue, we go back to it. But meanwhile, let's preserve the other 3 aspects. And this could be my conclusion to this. But thank you very much for all of you who have contributed. And I promise we will try to come up with a save the OSCE compact that we can give to MPs who can use it with the leadership in their countries. Thank you.